Us versus them. What it is and what it should be. That is the title of this video. And the reason is because there is a definite us versus them in our culture. Left versus right. Masks versus no masks. Lockdown versus freedom. You know, there are divides in this country that should not exist. But there are divides in this country that definitely should exist. And the ones that should not exist, at least to the degree that they do right now, are left versus right, mask versus no mask, lockdown versus freedom. Or I shouldn't even say lockdown versus freedom, because if you choose to lock yourself down because of the fear of this pandemic, then I support your freedom to choose that. If you choose to keep your business open, that is a freedom I also support. And you can choose not to go to those businesses. So here's the thing. Here's what I feel like is going on, is that the country is incredibly polarized, and I think that the polarization is by and large caused by the government media complex and big tech. And I think that they want us divided. Because imagine if instead of us fighting each other and paying attention to each other, what if we were paying attention to them? What if we were watching what big tech is doing? You know, the new Apple update is going to be automatically contact tracing you. How do you feel about that? They're going to what's going to happen with contact tracing is going to make the Patriot Act look like child's play, and nobody's talking about it. How much of your freedom are you willing to give up? That's always the question. How much of your freedom are you willing to give up for some security? We're not even talking about that because we're too busy fighting one another. Okay? What is the ruling class doing while we're all distracted with one another? This is a classic divide and conquer. This is like Art of War, Sun Tzu stuff. Okay? The ruling class know what they're doing, and they are doing it masterfully. Here's the divide that should exist. Here's the us versus them that should exist. Us versus the government. The people versus the ruling class. Do we even understand anymore, or does a modern civics class even teach that the government has no rights? The government has no rights. Okay? Citizens have rights. The government has delegated authority, and that authority is delegated to them by us, by the people, we the people. I want to read some of the Bill of Rights here and just talk about if we the people followed these and really flexed our rights, then the government would be rightly terrified of us. And they wouldn't be trying to spend our great-great-great-grandchildren's money, crash our economy, and running the world off of a fiat currency, which is probably on the way to collapse, but that's another video. Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Every single one of these have been destroyed by the ruling class government or big tech. Okay? Churches closed down. Just today, Trump said churches are necessary. Open the churches. Pastor, if you waited for the government's permission to open your church, you are disqualified. Stand down and let a man take your pulpit. You're not qualified. Freedom of speech, utterly crushed by big tech. voices of dissent are not allowed. Doctors kicked off of YouTube for disagreeing. You know, I think there's a pretty good chance that doctors know a little bit more about epidemiology and germ theory than some millennial big tech people. Okay, pretty safe in that assumption. All right, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. Again, big tech. Not just big tech, but you know, walk around a government building with a camera in public. You know you have the right to record freely. Any publicly accessible government building, go down to your sheriff's department and see what happens to you. Okay? Maybe they'll treat you well. Who knows? Peaceable assembly. Look, people were told that the lockdown restrictions prevented freedom of speech. Or, I'm sorry, freedom of assembly. You cannot protest because you're going to break social distancing guidelines, okay? And here's the one people forget. And to petition the government for redress of grievances. If you don't assemble, like that, the whole point of assembly is to petition. That's what a protest is. You take away the people's rights to protest, there is no redress of grievances. There is no petition, rather, for the redress of grievances. Okay? Do I need to get into the Second Amendment? A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Do you understand? Gun ownership has nothing to do with hunting and putting meat on your table and providing for your family. It has nothing to do with defending yourself against somebody who tries to do you harm, carjack you, or break into your home. It is to defeat a tyrannical government. With this lockdown, gun ownership has gone up like 30%. There are now over 400 million guns in a country of 330 million people. If people flexed these rights, the government would be rightly terrified of us, and they could not get away with the things that they're getting away with. But what are we doing? We're fighting one another. We've been divided and conquered. Or we haven't been conquered yet, but it's coming. Look around you. Just look around. Amendment 3, no soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner prescribed by law. So again, this is a property rights issue. Someone can't just come and take over your property and say, well, I'm with the government, I'm a soldier, and I need your resources to survive and fight for you. No, that is not something that can be done in a time of peace. But as prescribed by law, which, by the way, who writes laws? The legislature, right? This isn't something a president can constitutionally just decree from on high, right? We have a balance of powers in the Constitution that should be, but rarely is followed. Amendment number 4, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, house, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. Super important here. Did you know every time you go through the TSA, you are conceding your Fourth Amendment rights in the name of security theater? See my earlier video about that. So somebody can't just come and search you for no reason because you look funny, you look suspicious. They need a warrant. Okay? Now, James Madison wrote about, when he wrote about property, house papers, effects, things like that, maybe I'll find the article and try to link it in the description. I'm normally very bad at that. But he talked about our mind, our thoughts. We are free to think how we want to think, and we have ownership of those. So ownership, it almost is like an intellectual property right, right? So here's the thing, guys. The divide that needs to happen in this country if this country is going to heal, needs to start with the divide between the people and government. The government has turned itself into a reality show, and or worse yet, into the WWE, and we've picked sides. And like most WWE fans, we know it's all B as in B, S as in S. We know it's all lies. We know there's backroom deals going on between the ruling class left and right. But in public, they're fighting, right? Makes for a great show. Makes for a great distraction for we the people. But we the people need to unite against our common enemy, the government. The government is our enemy. Remember, the government has no rights. We have rights. The government has delegated authority, delegated to them by us, enumerated and codified in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And that same document that I was reading from, as well as the Declaration of Independence, gives we the people the right to overthrow them by any means necessary if they do not follow that document. So Christians who say, well, Romans 13, we have to submit to government, the government is that document. That is the government that we are to submit to. We submit to the Constitution, not a king. All right, we are in a unique time in Christian history for sure in that fact. But the founders of this country recognized important truths that that we are made in the image of God, right? And that as such, we have rights given to us by him that are inalienable. Inalienable. They cannot be breached. So, I'm going to look up a quick, I'm looking up a quote by Thomas Jefferson. By Thomas Jefferson. I know this is really exciting. I should have had this ready. I blew it. All right. Well, basically what Thomas Jefferson said about the Constitution is that it's only suitable for the governance of a moral and religious people. This is not to throw shade at atheists, all right? That's because the founders of this nation recognized that the God of the Bible was the one true and living God, and that we are made in his image, and as such, we have these inalienable rights. And if you deny that, you essentially concede your rights. And that's what you see with humanism. Humanism, people, not only are they willing to give up their own rights, they're more than happy to take the rights of anyone else. Do we need to talk abortion here? Right? The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Unless you're in the womb, then we're going to rip you out and murder you. But that is another video for another time. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.